The Heat kicks off their Las Vegas Summer League, but will they be in town to finalize a trade? We'll break it down on today's episode.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Heat, your everyday podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day, Monday to Friday. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com, here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members, and we're talking about Summer League today. Summer League starts Friday night in Las Vegas. We're going to preview it by asking the biggest burning questions, including what makes Kel'el Ware special. Plus, Bobby Marks has some info on what the Heat tried to do this offseason, but obviously didn't do. But let's start with the news that Jaime Jaquez Jr. is indeed planning, surprisingly, to play for the Heat in Summer League. No info on how many games he'll play, how many minutes he'll play, what kind of role he will play. But basically, Jaime was already in Las Vegas for the U.S. Select Team, scrimmaging against the Team USA team that's about to go play in the Olympics in Paris. And he basically said, you know what? I'm already in Vegas. Why not make an even longer trip out of it? Because everybody, you know, what everybody says about Vegas, you can't be there too long. So he was just like, yeah, I'll just stick around and I'll get some run with the Summer League team. What do you think? Good idea? Bad idea?
Well, I'm a little surprised. I mean, again,
Sure.
To your point, I don't know anybody who's said, you know what, I can't wait to spend a week or more in 110-degree temperatures. But you know what? That's what he's looking forward to. Maybe he loves that desert air. So as far as the decision is made, I'm very surprised because I don't think he has anything to prove. I think he goes in there and immediately, from what I can recall, amongst what every other roster is that's being fielded, he's like the best player in Summer League. I think the most established, the best player. I mean, I'm sure we'll have other games from other players that stand out, including this year's rookie class. But
well, you have just a quick point on that. Like, Charlotte's bringing back Brandon Miller. You know, you've got Cam Whitmore. Yeah, Cam Whitmore, who was the MVP of Summer League last year, I believe, is playing for Houston. Right. There's some other second-year players. It's not completely out of the norm.
This is the beginning of their trend, then.
Perhaps. I think it's more of just Jaime was already there, and the dude just likes to ball. And I think we're analyzing it a little bit too much.
No, but Brandon Miller, I mean, he was a really good rookie, and he ranked third amongst all rookies. He was all rookie first team. Like he was a great player, a good player. Awesome. And I think in years past, those kind of players would have avoided it because I think they want to avoid injury. And because, I mean, as we've said many times, like you're not really going to face the top tier competition. That being the case, you're not really going to prove anything. So it's almost better to continue to just work on your own individual game and improve skill development and things of that sort. Seek out your trainer du jour or whatever trainers you can while you're fitting in trips to Europe or the Bahamas or wherever, you know, like you're at some point in time, players during the summer, like, you know what, we're going to schedule our trip. While we're there, we're going to stop off in Miami. We're going to see blank and we're going to see these trainers and we're going to get a couple runs in here. And that's what we do rather than going, you know what, I'm going to fly all the way to Vegas, sit around for 2 weeks, see what happens, and then face inferior competition. So maybe it's the beginning of a trend.
Well, if I could point one thing out, Danny Chow from The Ringer wrote this story on some Summer League preview stuff, and he actually mentioned second-year players being involved in Summer League this year. Didn't have Jaime Jaquez in his story because I think it was written before the news came out that Jaime was going to play. But he went back to Kawhi Leonard in, 2011 or 12, his second year. So he was a standout as a rookie, obviously, for the Spurs, not Kawhi Leonard as we know him to be today, but it was a good rookie, and then came back for his Summer League in his second year, going into his second year, and then broke out in Summer League really there, and then that kind of paved the way for his big playoff series and guarding LeBron in the finals and all that kind of stuff. So
I don't remember.
It's not happening. Me neither. That's why it was like it was interesting that Danny Chow.
No, I don't remember him guarding LeBron in the finals.
Oh,
I'm saying
that's right.
2014 never happened.
I might have made that part up. So it's happened before, but to your point, maybe this will be more of a norm. The reason I see that it doesn't happen is if you're an NBA team, it's like, I know what Jaime Jaquez can do. I know what Brandon Miller can do. I know pretty much what Cam Whitmore can do. I don't need these guys taking the ball and taking minutes away from these guys who I don't know what they can do. Like, I'm trying to learn something, and I'm not going to learn anything if Jaime's playing. That said, if I'm Jaime, it's still basketball. It's still 5-on-5. To your point, he's probably training and getting in scrimmages and pickup games somewhere else anyway. And by the way, all the guys who usually run these pickup games are going to Paris, right? Like a lot of these professionals kind of are in charge of running these pickup games. So maybe if you're a guy like Jaime, you're like, you know what? I'm going to be playing basketball no matter what. I might as well do it in Vegas with the rest of my teammates, with the coaching staff who I'm used to, or some of the coaching staff at least that I'm used to. So I get it. People are worried that he's going to get injured or something like that. He tweaked whatever it was, a hamstring, whatever it was last summer, and then was basically held out of the Vegas portion of Summer League. Yeah. I'm not worried about that. Like I said, the guy's going to be exercising, working out and stuff anyway. He's not going to go too hard. You know what? I would be really shocked if he was involved in the full 10-day Summer League tournament. He might just play a game or two.
That's fine. I could see that, and I understand the purpose. I think it's going to be beneficial, but I do have that concern. Like I want him to walk out of that unscathed, and I know that's for every player there. But as far as from the Miami Heat is concerned, like he's going to be a major rotational player. So and if he's cutting into minutes from a guy like Ke'Shawn Johnson or Pelle Larsson or somebody else that's like desperate to find a spot on this roster, that kind of is I think antithetical to the purpose of Summer League. It's not just to get these guys some burn, it's to get these guys to develop and show off for other teams because they're fighting for their NBA lives.
Although for our purposes, I really hope that Jaime is on the court with Pelle Larsson and Kel'el Ware as much as possible, because those are three guys who are going to be on the roster. And Zion Pullen and Ke'Shawn Johnson, the guys on the two-way contracts also. I want to see those guys play. Heck, that could be a starting five right there. Yeah. That would be really interesting to me. Not, the starting five in Summer League, not at the NBA level, to be clear. That team can win Summer League. It might win 10 games in the NBA. But, I would be excited to see that, at least just for our purposes. All right, so that was our first burning question. Should Jaime Jaquez Jr. be playing? We didn't really have an answer to it, but we broke it all down. Second burning question here. And you and I want to talk about Kel'el Ware. You went a very kind of logical route when you brought your question to the table before we started recording here, and I went the more dramatic route. Did the Heat make the right pick? That's sort of how I framed it. You said, what makes Kel'el Ware special? I think no matter what, it's going to be interesting to see Kel'el Ware, even outside the California Classic, where he did play against, well, he didn't play against Dalton Connect, but, played against some other rookies and stuff like that. But in this Vegas stage, where the other guys who got picked after him, like Dalton Connect, like Tristan Da Silva, Jared McCain, obviously, who played really well for the Sixers in his Summer League debut in the Salt Lake City portion of stuff. It'll be interesting, at least I think, to compare Kel'el Ware to those other guys that the Heat picked Kel'el Ware over. Yeah. And I'm not saying that from a small Summer League sample size that we'll be able to make the vast conclusion of, hey, the Heat made the right or wrong pick. I'm not trying to make any conclusions here. I'm just saying it'll be interesting to me, and I'll be watching it.
No, 100%. Like, even the guys picked before. Like, I mean, I want to see him match up against Zach Edey. I want to see him go up against Yves Missy. I know he was picked afterwards, but still, like these guys that were on Miami's radar. What's the name of the guy that you like so much that was picked by Denver?
Deron Holmes II.
Yeah, I don't remember him anymore. It's been so long, and he's no longer on Miami's radar. We don't have to worry about him. Now he's just going to go back up Nikola Jokic and never get any playing time.
And Dario Saric.
Yeah.
He's getting into fights in bars lately.
Is he really?
You didn't see the video? Dario Saric getting in a fight in a bar?
I have not seen that. Wow. Right. I don't know.
Check that out when we're done recording. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely those matchups. Like, how does he go up against these guys? Because I think this is the beginning of like an interesting change, and we've seen it coming over the last couple of years, the unicorns and everything else like that. But we're seeing a new era of other big men, and how they adapt, how they face each other in these first few matchups is going to be really interesting. It's going to set a trend for other future matchups down the road. Guys like Ware might not get much playing time, but it's still these are the good opportunities to kind of showcase what they can do against those top 10 centers that were selected too. So it's going to be a fun matchup. But I also am looking to my question, like, what is he going to do against these players and against the field in general that makes him stand out consistently? Is it going to be the scoring? Is it going to be the defense? Is it going to be the screen and roll and dives to the hoop? What is it that's going to make him pop that can help him establish himself as an NBA player and showcase to the coaching staff, not just now, but a couple months from now when training camp starts, what can earn him the playing time? It's going to start on the defensive end, but he's got to do enough offensively where he can't be a glaring negative out there. So he's going to have to be able to pop some way. And I'm curious to see in which way that might be.
So he played 2 of the 3 games in the California Classic. The first game, he spent all his minutes doing a bad LaMarcus Aldridge impression. Second game, he ran up and down the court, north-south, set high screens, rolled to the rim, scored 26 points on on like 60% shooting, whatever it was. Is it more of the second game, or is it more of the first game that we see more often with Kel'el Ware? Because I said this in our Blue Notebook preview. His comfort zone, his default setting, is the bad LaMarcus Aldridge impression. He needs to be coached into doing the thing that he's really good at, which is the vertical spacing, the north-south running the floor stuff. And the more he does that, the more special, the specialer he'll be. And defensively, it's there. Defensively, the shot blocking, the size. I really like what I saw from him in the drop defensive coverage that they played in the San Francisco portion of their summer league schedule.
Yep.
How does that carry over into Las Vegas? It will be really interesting to watch. Who's next in Miami's development pipeline, and what move did the Heat try to make but failed to pull off? We'll talk about all of that next on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what makes your ride or die alive, what keeps your car alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and to level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply, and eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Miami Heat Talk every day, 5 days a week. If you're new to us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You can also follow us on your podcast app. ESPN's Bobby Marks has some intel on what the Heat tried to do but failed. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But we're continuing along with our burning questions, our Miami Heat Summer League preview. So we already talked about Kel'el Ware. The Heat also took Pelle Larsson in the second round. They've added Keyshawn Johnson to a two-way contract as an undrafted rookie. Zion Pullen to a two-way contract as an undrafted rookie. And in recent news, as of Thursday, they had renounced their restricted free agent rights on Cole Swider and Alondes Williams. So those guys become unrestricted free agents. However, they are still, at least for now, scheduled to participate, on the Summer League roster for the Heat. So they're still around, and we'll see what happens with that. But all that leads to my next big Summer League burning question. It's who's next in the development pipeline? And that does not include Kel'el Ware because he's a first-round pick. And I got an interesting stat, and I tweeted this out earlier today, David. Nikola Jovic, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kel'el Ware. The first time the Heat have used and kept 3 first-round picks in a row since 2005, when they took Dwayne Wade, Darrell Wright, and then our old friend Wayne Simeon in back-to-back drafts from 2003 to 2005. It has been a long time since the Heat have committed to the draft in this way, and there's a lot of reasons for that, mostly being the new CBA and why just rookies are cheaper than the veteran players, but it also speaks to how reliant the Heat are on not just the development program when it comes to the undrafted, hidden gems, all these things, but the guys with the first-round talent and what it means to develop them. We already saw how good Jaime Jaquez was as a rookie. Maybe he's in for a breakout second year. Nikola Jovic broke out in his second season. We'll see what happens with Kel'el Ware as a rookie. All this is to say the Heat are doubling down on player development, tripling down on player development, but they've also had to replenish the pipeline here now that Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Caleb Martin, all these guys are, even guys like Omer Yurtseven, Orlando Robinson, like all these guys who've kind of come and went through the pipeline that we've got accustomed to seeing, they're gone. And the Heat have 11 rookies on their Summer League roster. That's a lot for a Summer League roster. So
I'm surprised have they even had 3 consecutive picks in the first round? Like aside from 2005, aside
exactly
from 2005, okay, they have not had. They've been trading those away, but now they're not using them. They're not giving them away as easily as they once did because they'd rather keep those players and develop them, and it's proved successful. They've got 2 key rotation players, I guess 4 actually when you think about Jovic and Jaquez and the possibility of Ware. So those are
4.
It's the future for Miami.
Who's the fourth one? Who's the fourth one?
Jaime Jaquez.
Jaime,
Nikola Jovic,
Nico, Ware.
Bam,
That's
Tyler.
3. Oh, yeah, we're going way back now. Okay, yeah, even further back. I mean, there was a gap in there, but yeah. I mean, you're talking about the guys on the roster right now. Okay.
Yeah, that they've
Not
drafted
consecutive.
and they're
Okay,
continuing to
yes.
develop. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I said. Take Jimmy Butler off the roster. This team is built through the draft.
Bought, not built. Not anymore, buddy. Those days are over.
Built, not bought.
Or whatever. Yeah.
The Heat are building the right way, which I never believed that in the first place. But
Of
everybody
course,
says that the draft is the right way.
Nobody does that. Yeah, nobody builds the right way. Look
there's
at
no
me,
right
Indiana.
or wrong way. There's just the way. There's whatever way gets you the championship is the right way.
Yeah.
So, who's next in the pipeline? Is there a name to you that stands out?
Yeah, I think it's Keyshawn Johnson. Like, I know he had a big game for Miami in the California Classic.
The Lakers game.
He just the way he said after the game that he wants to be. He thinks he's a Heat culture guy. I made that same point earlier this week. Like, he just stands out that way. Like, and even when we were looking at the draft,
you're the first one on this, man. I'm gonna give you credit. You were all over Keyshawn Johnson. You were texting me like, "I like this kid. I really like this kid." I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll watch the film." And I'm like, "I like him," but you were all in. You and the David heads were calling for Keyshawn Johnson. Congrats.
Thank you. Let's see how it pans out, though. That's the whole thing, though. Like, he has the potential. Like, he's got the NBA skills. He's got the body. He's got the athleticism. He can fit a role on this team. And I think it's important to see whether or not he can continue to develop and continue to build on what he showed in Sacramento. So I think that's the next step for him. And I'm curious to see whether or not he can be that next guy. Because there are not a lot of options. Obviously, we talked about the contract situation before. Miami can't do anything, but he's already on a 2-way. Can he keep that? Can he keep that and still play a number of games for Miami at some point as a backup and maybe even as a starter? Who knows? I mean, I could see him getting playing time at a significant level just because, well, Miami always is dependent on guys like this. And so, if he can continue and to grow and develop and maintain what we saw sparks of, then I think he's going to be a nice rotational player for Miami. If not this season, then at least down the road.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. Just a couple more names just to add to it. Isaiah Stevens, he's on the Exhibit 10 contract. He'll be at least in training camp. I like what I saw. He sat out that Lakers game, the third California Classic game, but I like what I saw from him in the first couple of games.
Working with Ware, like, I mean, he was a big part of why Ware had that big second game too. Like, his
great point,
feeding him and guiding him, like that's an essential role for the point guard alongside a guy like Ware, and he did a great job.
I also like Caleb Daniels, the rookie guard out of Villanova. He had 9 points on 6 shots in that Lakers game, 4 rebounds, plays strong, had 2 steals in that game. I just like his hustle. I like everything about him. I like his size, 6'4", about 200 pounds. So he's bigger than Isaiah Stevens, and the Heat really need to start figuring out what guards are going to be next in the development pipeline, maybe more than any other position.
It doesn't seem like he's got much of an opportunity, and I don't know what it's going to take for him to pop because he's been with the team for a while. He's been with Sioux Falls. I remember liking him last year and liking his story and thinking, this is a guy with an opportunity and maybe he'll be able to come into camp and do something. They wound up they cut him beforehand, and they haven't really used him. And I wonder, if this is kind of, we've seen this before. This might be the last best opportunity for him to stand out. And if it's not with Miami, maybe it's another team that kind of says, we like his potential. And maybe there's a depth, a lack of guard, at another roster. And maybe they could use a guy like Daniels, but he needs to really impress in order for him to make this into something tangible.
Tough breaks for Alanis Williams and Cole Swider, who were awesome in those San Francisco games. But it does not mean that they're out of the system. It doesn't mean they're out of the pipeline either. Just because they're unrestricted free agents, the Heat, if they don't get signed by another team, which is no guarantee, the Heat could just bring them back to Sioux Falls. Although they might be looking for opportunities with a different organization if they feel like there's no pathway in Miami also. So
would you guess that it has? I mean, from Miami's sake,
not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think the 2-way contracts are still up for grabs just because they relinquished the restricted free agent rights because they had to do it at some point. Like, let's see what they're still part of the summer league roster. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I like Swider and Williams a lot. So I can't imagine that was an easy decision for the Heat. So, all right. Got a couple more things to get to here. ESPN's Bobby Marks had some intel on what it is that the Heat tried to do but could not do. And then I have a bonus question, a surprise question for you, David. We'll get to all that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Look, we live in South Florida. It's a place where just filled with beautiful people, right? That's what it's known for. It's got glamour, it's got pizzazz. You drive around in your Lambo. The luxury rental car market in South Florida is booming in a way that I can't imagine it. Maybe like a place like Abu Dhabi or something.
Or
like
those
that,
like three-wheelers that you see everywhere with the roofs that go over the bridge over onto South Beach.
Sidewinders or something like that. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. Right. Either way, it's just they're you just see these things all around, and it's hard, right, on your day-to-day life. It's hard not to see these things and want these things and covet these things. And you know what? Comparison, as they say, can be the thief of joy. And it's easy to envy other people's lives, especially with social media and all that. And you think they have it all together, but in reality, they probably don't. So if you have concerns, if you get worried sometimes, if you get bogged down in that, well, maybe what you're looking for is therapy, because they can help you focus on what you want rather than what others have. So you can start living your best life. That's the benefit of therapy. And if you're thinking of starting therapy, then you should probably give BetterHelp a try, because it's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. It's really convenient. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with a licensed therapist right away, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If there's ever a change in your schedule, you need to see somebody else for whatever reason, or maybe you just don't, it doesn't work out right away, then you want to try somebody else. Guess what? You can make that change, no charge at all. So stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnBA today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnBA. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Let us know in the comments section who you're looking forward to watching at NBA Summer League. Could be a Miami Heat player, could be any player. Don't care. Comments are open. Free speech. Also follow us on your favorite podcast app. We got a big response on our pizza conversation the other day, and I will just, for the record, most people agree with me. We don't have to rehash this, but I just want to point it out. Wes Heads came out in full force supporting my view that barbecue sauce doesn't belong anywhere near a pizza, and I stand by that very strongly. And you will not see me in Las Vegas eating anything that's barbecue pizza related. I'm not doing that. I am going to be in Las Vegas, but that's not the important part here. The important part here is that not only will I be in Las Vegas, but the entire NBA world will essentially be in Las Vegas. Executives, agents, general managers, players, coaches, all these things. What you see on the screen in Summer League is only half of what's actually going on in Las Vegas. I always remember, and I like to tell this story, quite literally the earth-shattering trade that landed Kawhi Leonard and Paul George with the LA Clippers. It was the same night that Zion Williamson made his Summer League debut, dunked it 50 yards in front of me, and then seemingly caused an earthquake underneath the very ground that I was sitting. And that same night, I'm sitting in a lobby bar with a beer in my hand, and news breaks. I think it was Chris Haynes at the time, broke the news that the Clippers were trading for Paul George, and by trading for Paul George, they were going to land also Kawhi Leonard as a free agent. And so that's the sort of thing that doesn't always happen in Summer League, but can happen during Summer League. John Hollinger used to be an executive for the Memphis Grizzlies, now works for The Athletic, said in a column this week, there's basically two waves of offseason movement. You have the first wave, which is around the draft, before, after, draft picks are getting moved, all those things are happening. And then you got, obviously, the opening days of free agents are signing and stuff. That happened. We're done. That already happened. You have a second wave of offseason movement, which is right now, when you get all these executives in Vegas meeting face-to-face. We remember last year that the Heat tried to get a face-to-face with Joe Cronin. Why did they try to? Because that's usually what happens. But Joe Cronin said, no, I don't even want to bother with you guys. I don't even want the face-to-face. So that was weird. But
which face, though? I mean, that's the thing.
The two-faced Joe Cronin. No, don't get me involved in the Joe Cronin stuff. I want out. So that brings me to my final Summer League burning question. Can Summer League grease the wheels on a roster move? Before you answer that, let's take a listen to Bobby Marks, who on ESPN today provided some intel on what the Heat have tried to do this summer but couldn't.
Heat fans want more. They want more. They see what Boston did last year. They see what New York has done. They saw with certainly Philadelphia as far as loading up here. But as Zach said, what else can you do? They're limited on their draft picks they can send out. They would have loved to get DeMar DeRozan. They tried as heck to get DeMar DeRozan. Nobody wanted Duncan Robinson, no offense. They had one first-round pick to trade. They wanted Tyus Jones. They couldn't make a deal here.
They wanted DeMar DeRozan. They wanted Tyus Jones. They tried to dump Duncan Robinson on a team but couldn't. What do you make of what Bobby Marks had to say?
I don't think it's all that surprising.
Yeah.
I think we knew about that. I think we're already starting to see some counter to that reporting from Bobby Marks, or at least those statements there. And I think it was kind of, it's the nature of TV, right? You've got a few seconds, you got to make something stand out, you got to make it pop. You've got a few seconds to get a point across, and you kind of throw it all, mash it all together, and hope that it sticks and that it stands out. And so it's been cut, and obviously it makes a great point for Heat fans, because it's like, oh wow, we were involved in all these things. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter because they didn't get anything done. They didn't get Tyus, they didn't get DeMar, and Duncan is still on the contract. So, I think it's kind of, again, par for everything that we've said. They're looking to explore whatever opportunities are there, whether it's moving Tyler, whether it's moving Duncan, doing what they can to clear up some space and maybe get a player of some value in return. But as we've said a number of times, those options just aren't available. So it just makes perfect sense. As far as the pursuit of DeMar DeRozan is concerned, I'm a little surprised that they would. I don't know how to tie it all together. You and I were discussing this beforehand. Like, are all these things connected? Was trying to move Duncan an opportunity for them to sign Tyus and then perhaps sign DeMar DeRozan, or were they trying to clear up cap space? I don't know exactly how it works out. I don't think they had, even moving Duncan wouldn't have meant that they had more space or more money available to sign DeMar DeRozan. So I don't know how these things, if at all, are connected.
If they had dumped Duncan Robinson's contract and taken zero back, I think it would have unlocked the full mid-level exception. But DeMar DeRozan already said he wasn't interested in doing that, and he ends up signing for $20 million a year in Sacramento. Was it part of a sign and trade? Because Duncan Robinson's making right about $20 million. Could they have sign and traded? That, unfortunately, would have also required a separate salary dump of either Terry Rozier or Tyler Hero, because it would have put them above the first apron, which is the apron that you get hard capped at if you do a sign and trade, blah, 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 blah. So to your point, all very confusing, unclear how related all those things that Bobby Marks just sort of rattled off, to your point, in just like 2-3 seconds on TV actually were related. But it does reflect what we've been saying here on the show for a long time, all season, is the Heat have been trying to do stuff. They have been on the phones. Pat Riley is not asleep at the wheel, right? As much as that meme goes around, like, he's not sleeping. They're working the phones. Their problem is that they've kind of put themselves in a tough corner here, where they have one first-round pick that they're able to trade right now, unless they start lifting protections on everything, which they don't want to do. And so they're kind of cornered. And as much as they might want a DeMar DeRozan or even a Tyus Jones, doesn't really matter. Here's the thing, though. Going back to Summer League, I don't know if meeting in person can unlock, meeting in person in Vegas in a lobby, maybe with some beverages, might unlock a different level of creativity in the mind that provides the path to a Tyus Jones, who's still a free agent, by the way.
Yep.
To me, it's interesting that they want Tyus Jones, because you just traded for Terry Rozier. And what does that indicate? Are they trying to bring in Tyus Jones as a backup point guard? Are they trying to maybe move Terry Rozier into a 6-man role and have a new starting point guard? I don't know I don't know how far we want to go down that path, but that's just, I was like, Tyus Jones, really? That was a little interesting to me.
Yeah, it's a good name. I think maybe,
he's a good player
again. Yeah, I think he certainly fits a role. You could look at what Miami's. It's hard to kind of gauge this, because we're made a point, and we've made it, and we're pretty consistent about this. That the idea is you don't really need a point guard so much, because everybody's going to be handling the ball, and it's just not the traditional roles that players have had in the past. I don't think Tyus fits into the floor general model. He's more of a guy who can't handle, he can't bring the ball up, he can't initiate offense, he can grease the wheels offensively for other players, but at the same time, he can also score on his own too. And I think he's just looking for a more expanded opportunity. Just hasn't really gotten that either in Washington or Minnesota, where he was before, right? I'm going back a ways there, but Memphis. All right, okay. So yeah, I'm curious to see what his role would have been like with Miami and what they envisioned for him, because if you're saying we don't need a point guard, and yet the pursuit is of a point guard, then maybe that is kind of a counter to what we're talking about here.
Maybe they do feel like they need a point guard.
Yeah, I know.
Heard the rumors before the draft too that they were interested in a guard, and I think the guy that they wanted was Rob Dillingham. They tried to trade into the top 10 to get him, and got beat by Minnesota, who traded up not to 9 but to 8, and ended up swiping him. So, I think obviously they're happy with Kel'el Ware, but they were obviously trying to get a guard, and so I wonder if they're looking for more help at that position. And what does that mean? Does that mean that they were thinking, well, yeah, we have 3 guards who are going to get rotation minutes with Rozier, Tyler Hero, and Duncan Robinson, But maybe they were trying to dump Duncan Robinson. Maybe they're trying to dump one of those other contracts, which means you have to obviously backfill that player with maybe somebody obviously cheaper, like a rookie, or like Tyus Jones at even $15 million a year is still cheaper than $20 million a year. I don't know, whatever it is. So, yeah, all that stuff is really interesting. We'll see. It's hard for the Heat to do anything. To Bobby Marks' points, to Zach Lowe's point, to Keith Smith, who was on the show right before the offseason started, said, hey, it's going to be really hard for the Heat to do anything. And we were like, no, they'll get something done. And then they obviously didn't. So I don't know.
Can I just say something really quickly? Because we're still getting feedback on this and we're still getting these questions. And I don't know.
Sure.
They're not trading Jimmy Butler. Like everybody keeps suggesting it. Like we've made that point before, that's their best option. Read the recent post by Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald if you can. That kind of clarifies it in more detail. But we've been talking about this for a while now. Like, what team is going to take on Jimmy Butler at his current salary, given their concerns that people can't add even a guy like Tyus Jones who's going to be making significantly less. Who's out there going, yeah, I can't wait to take on Jimmy Butler's $50 million contract. That team does not exist. Trading Jimmy Butler is not a possibility anymore. So just to let
Once
you know,
Paul George signed in Philadelphia, that was
opportunity.
By the way, I don't think that the Heat were in a rush to try to trade Jimmy Butler because they don't
agree.
That's not an organization that's going to take that kind of step back. They just don't do it. They fundamentally don't believe in it. And so we can argue whether or not they should. And I'm happy to have that argument. Like we've talked about that a lot. Like you and I have said, the path forward is to trade Jimmy Butler. We could say that. We ain't in charge. So it's different than when we're talking about what we think the Heat should do and what we think the Heat will do. Those are sometimes different things. Sometimes they're the same thing. In this case, they're different things. All right, last Summer League question I got for you, David.
All right.
Las Vegas, neon lights, parties, the Strip, shows, gambling, good food, Summer League in July. It's the best place to take your entourage, isn't it? The Las Vegas entourage. So here's my question to you. You need to build an entourage of Miami Heat people, all right? Keyword people, players, coaches, executives, whatever, can be in the organization, have to be part of the organization or tied to the organization now. So you can't give me like Glenn Rice.
Man.
It's not going to work. So, and they have to fill these 4 roles in your entourage. It's your entourage. So they're following you.
Like the TV show Entourage kind of thing?
It's a little bit like that, yeah.
Right.
You need a driver. Okay.
Cool.
You need the bankroll.
Okay.
Yep, the guy with the money.
All right.
You need a wild card, like a Zach Galifianakis and Hangover type. You need a wild card who keeps everything interesting.
Okay.
And then you need the group mom, the guy who's just gonna tuck everybody in at the end of the night. All right. So you got a driver, bankroll, wild card, group mom. That's your entourage. Who's in each position? Take your time.
Wow. Okay. Bankroll, I know right away it's Pat Riley. Not only that, because I think he's also going to be a lot of just interesting options. Like you talked about the behind the scenes stuff, like to the idea that Pat's going to be just funding this stuff and be like, no, you don't want to go there. You come with me. And then once we're there, it's like the Illuminati of
NBA he's doing the Goodfellas. He enters through the kitchen and comes out to the back way into the dining room. Yeah.
And it's like there's like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's there, Magic Johnson's there, like every NBA Hall of Famer's there. They just kind of tip their glass at you, kind of thing. It's like, what the hell am I doing here?
Right.
So Pat Riley
knows the names of the security guards. You're like, when was the last time you were in Vegas? How did you know he still worked here?
Wild card would be Jimmy Butler, because whatever you say about Jimmy, you're going to have an adventure, whether it's playing tennis at 2:00 in the morning or hanging out with some starlet or something like that. Like he's going to
showing up at a high roller blackjack table that's a televised event. You're like, what?
With a bag of cash somewhere. It's like, I don't know how we got here, but Jimmy said it's cool, and I guess it's cool. And he's patched things up with Pat too, so it's great. Group mom would be Bam. Like we talked about, like he's 100%. Out there. He's seeing his girlfriend out there, like, or I mean, I should even talk about his personal life.
We shouldn't speculate. We don't know if they're good for that. Whatever it might be.
But Bam's probably bringing his mom along. Like he's probably trying to. She might be the driver of the entourage. He's like, Mom, don't go over 30. It's like, that's right. Don't worry, baby, I got you. She's driving around the streets of Las Vegas. It would be awesome. Other than that, I don't have a driver necessarily.
Bam's mom's good. She's connected. So we got Bam's mom as the driver. Bam is the group mom, Jimmy Butler and Pat Riley. It's a good group. That's a good entourage.
It's something. It's something. I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around it completely. But yeah, It's possibilities certainly.
Who would be another option for the driver? It'd be like I don't know.
Not Spo. Can it be Spo?
Spo, no, because it has. You know what? I actually think the rookie has to drive. So Kel'el Ware. No, is he even? How old is he?
Can he fit? Yes, he's
have a license.
He's old enough to drive. Yeah,
he's also too tall.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's like what kind of car?
See anything
what kind of front
him.
seat do you need? All right, I'll go Jaime. Jaime is the driver. It's a little bit smaller, but still second year, so you could still kind of give him that kind of rookie work. Yeah. So Jaime's the driver because you make him the DD.
Actually, UD would be a good driver too. Can you bring him in? Like he'd be
UD
like,
could be a wild card.
Yeah, he could be a wild card.
Or the group mom. He's pretty versatile.
Could be back roll too. He made a lot of money in his NBA career. It'd be like, no, you don't want to go here. Pat's got to take you to this place. I got to take you to the other side of Vegas. And you're like, okay, hold on. The next thing you know, he's driving Pat's car, his classic Cadillac, whatever it might be, and he's driving through the streets there.
When Pat Riley goes to bed, our driver morphs into our bankroller at that point. Nice. So we have a Pat Riley kind of nice where we're eating at the nicest steakhouse in Vegas, best seat in the house, best reservations. We got front row seats to Cirque du Soleil or something, and it's that classy Pat Riley night, and VIP seating at the Sphere, whatever's happening there. I think it's the Grateful Dead during the Summer League. Yeah, so we've got all that stuff, and then he goes to bed, and Udonis Haslem's like, all right, now the party starts, and he goes from mom to or driver or whatever we had him to a bankroller. So it's a good entourage. Who would be in your entourage for Las Vegas? Let us know in the comments section. But for now, thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.